This just in, Trump will end Iran war when he feels it in his bones. Now, what does that mean for a junkie exactly? Or is he referring to voodoo?
That's all I need.
With Trumpenstein, the United States is sending a 2,500-strong Marine expeditionary force to the Middle East. A U.S. official said as President Donald Trump declared he would end the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran when I feel it in my bones. The Marine deployment signals deepening American involvement in the 2-week-old Iran war and comes after U.S. Central Command confirmed the deaths of 6 U.S. troops when their refueling aircraft crashed over western Iraq. Much like the helicopter crash back in 2018, which killed 7. The Thursday night crash raised the total number of United States war dead to 13. Officials initially believed that 2 members of the crew had survived. Let's see what the warmongers have to say.
Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do.
Good Lord.
We know that.
Can anybody even stand to listen to these people speak anymore?
Lacks legitimacy. It's a mess for them. Who's in charge? Iran may not even know.
And of course, that was a portion of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth as he was speaking earlier on this morning. Now, I also want to take you out to this post as U.S. Central Command is confirming that at least 4 of the U.S. service members on board a refueling aircraft have died after a crash. The crash itself is still under investigation, but the U.S. military says this was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. The identities of the service members could be released later on today once family members have officially been notified.
Iran lists U.S. tech giants as new infrastructure war targets. March 13, 2026. The threat isn't theoretical. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, through its affiliated Tasnim news agency, published a hit list Wednesday targeting roughly 30 facilities across the region. Google's Tel Aviv offices, Microsoft's UAE investments, NVIDIA's Israeli engineer centers, and Amazon's Gulf data centers all made the cut. Oracle, IBM, and Palantir facilities join them on what Iran calls enemy technology infrastructure. I'm surprised SpaceX isn't on there, or NASA. But have you kind of noticed that Iran's enemies seem to be the people of the United States enemies? Yeah. I think that's pretty interesting. The targeting rationale centers on these companies' Pentagon connections. According to Tasnim, these aren't neutral civilian businesses, but active participants in military operations, enabling airstrikes through AI and surveillance contracts. That's not all they're doing. The IRGC's Qatam al-Anbiya group warned people to avoid U.S. and Israeli economic centers within 1-kilometer radius, treating them as combat zones rather than office buildings. And I would have to agree.
What is verified is what the IDF confirmed from its own end, and that confirmation is what changes the entire picture. On March the 10th, the Israeli Defense Forces held a press briefing and disclosed something that reframes this entire conflict. Approximately 50% of all ballistic missiles launched by Iran at Israel since February the 28th carried cluster bomb warheads, not conventional unitary warheads, cluster munitions, weapons that do not detonate as a single explosion. Instead, they released dozens of smaller submunitions, each packed with several kilograms of explosives, scattering across a radius of up to 10 kilometers. The IDF stated Iran has been firing cluster-armed missiles at Israel almost daily since the war started. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies confirmed this in an analysis published on March the 11th, noting that with Iran's launcher fleet being degraded by strikes, the shift to cluster warheads is a deliberate adaptation to extract maximum damage from each individual missile that gets through. Most people assume interception means the threat is neutralized. In reality, cluster munitions break that logic entirely. Israel's Arrow system, David's Sling, the Iron Dome, they are all engineered to track and destroy a single re-entry vehicle on a calculable arc. A cluster warhead is designed to fragment. If the interceptor reaches the missile before it disperses, the threat is contained. But if the warhead separates at altitude, which is what these weapons are designed to do, the submunitions scatter across kilometers before any interceptor can engage them individually. One missile becomes dozens of independent projectiles.
Ty Steele joins us now live from outside that synagogue. Ty, you spoke with residents in the area who took in people from the synagogue this afternoon. What did they tell you?
That's right, Tom. 10 yards from where I'm standing right here, a homeowner was home at the time of the evacuation of that preschool. He took about 40 children into his garage and held them there for about 30 minutes until school buses arrived and took them to a safe location. He says he is so grateful that he was there to help. Tom, back to you.
List of countries involved in this Iran war obviously include the U.S. and Israel. Also, United Arab Emirates, the U.S. ally, has absorbed some 800 projectiles from Iran since the war began. The UAE closed its embassy in Tehran and is now considering military action. Qatar, the tiny Gulf nation, which has historically had friendly ties with both the U.S. and Iran, suspended most of its natural gas production after Iranian drones struck two of its energy facilities. Does it make sense that Iran would do this? I'm wondering if Israel but it doesn't make sense for Iran to be attacking all these other countries when they've got enough problems with the U.S. and Israel. Kuwait. Iran attacked Kuwait on the first day of war in an attack that led to the first American deaths. And of course, yes, we do know that they are striking bases, but hotels and stuff like that, just doesn't make any sense to me. Bahrain. Iran targeted U.S. bases in Bahrain. This video showing smoke rising from near the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Manama. Oman. Iran expanded its strikes to include U.S. bases in Oman on the second day of the war. Saudi Arabia. Iran targeted U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia on the second day of strikes. Jordan. Iran fired missiles and drones at U.S. military installations in the country. Lebanon. Hezbollah entered the war on Iran's side, launching missiles and drones at Israel on Monday, breaking a ceasefire that had been in place since November 2024. Israel responded with heavy airstrikes across Lebanon, killing at least 40 people, including several Hezbollah commanders. Israel has also launched an incursion into southern Lebanon, but they're always doing that, so. Iraq. Iran struck the Kurdish region of Iraq, which it views as closely aligned with the U.S. Cyprus. Drones struck the British Royal Air Force Base in Cyprus, pulling the UK and the European Union into the conflict. Yeah, that I definitely believe was Israel. I bet you. The last thing Iran wanted to do was bring them in, right? So why would they instigate that? That's crazy. Hezbollah. United Kingdom. After an Iranian drone struck the UK base in Cyprus, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer authorized the US to use British air bases to strike Iranian missile sites and dispatched a Royal Navy destroyer and counter-drone helicopters to the region. France and Germany. Both EU powers initially called for a return to negotiations, but opened up to the possibility to striking Iran after Iranian strikes hit their personnel, including a German army camp in Jordan. Again, how much of this is all Israel? Would you say 99% of this war is Israel? Seems like a fair assessment. This is what Israel does all the time, though. They terrorize Lebanon. And then they blame it on Hezbollah. I just don't believe half of these red dots. I think they should be green. The conflict has been creeping closer to Europe, with Azerbaijan and Turkey impacted by drones over the last week. March 10th again, 3 days ago. Pentagon now says approximately 140 U.S. troops wounded over 10 days of Iran war. Today, Iran war nears 2-week mark as military plane crash in Iraq brings U.S. toll to 13. What to know almost 2 weeks into the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran. The U.S. military has confirmed that all 6 crew members were killed when an American KC-135 refueling aircraft crashed Thursday in West Iraq. President Trump has issued a vague new threat saying, "Watch what happens" to Iran's leaders on Friday, as Iran launches multiple new attacks on America's Persian Gulf allies and on Israel, despite Mr. Trump's insistence that Tehran's offensive capabilities are being decimated. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says Iran's missile and drone launches have been reduced sharply, and its new supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. But we honestly can't believe a word that comes out of any of their mouths, so who knows? Later, Vice President No Chance Vance told reporters, "We know that he's hurt. We don't know exactly how bad, but we know that he's hurt." Iran's attacks continue to gridlock shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said the U.S. Navy could start escorting tankers through the strategic waterway as oil prices remain over $100 per barrel. You know, the Bible tells us that Satan was a liar from the start. He lies so much he can't help himself. He even lies about things that are easily disproven. And that 100% reminds me of Trump. Listen to this nonsense. Trump says if U.S. didn't attack Iran, they were going to attack us. Does that make any sense? That's the reason to go to war. In an interview with professional boxer Jake Paul, posted on YouTube on Friday, President Trump said Iran was going to attack us if the U.S. didn't attack first. "With Iran, we knew we had to do something because they were going to be attacking us," he said. "If we didn't attack them, they were going to attack us." Do you see how insane that statement is? If we didn't attack them, they were going to. But since we did attack them, they won't attack us. Like, it's crazy. And we did it first. And by going first, we wiped out thousands of missiles that would have been shot. And you know, you can shoot them down, but you need a lot of very expensive weaponry to shoot them down. We wiped out thousands and thousands of missiles by going early, and it made a big difference. U.S. expected to send more ships, Marines, to Mideast, officials say. The Pentagon is expected to send more ships and Marines to the Middle East, 2 U.S. officials confirmed to CBS News. The reinforcements were expected to come from elements of an amphibious ready group and its embarked Marine Amphibious ready group and in its embarked Marine Expeditionary Unit. Really? We call them amphibious ready groups? One official said the group is led by the USS Tripoli, which is currently deployed to Japan. The group typically consists of 5,000 sailors and Marines across several warships. The Wall Street Journal first reported the development. U.S. offers up to $10 million for info on Supreme Leader. Other key leaders who are not named. Well, yeah, why not $10 million? Why not, right? because they're just printing money on command anyway. They're just trafficking humans and making all this money off of the drugs that they're flooding our country with. What's 10 million to our government when they can just steal it right out of the Federal Reserve? Israeli military says fighter jets targeted over 150 Iranian military sites Friday. The airline A1 said Friday it will operate some flights out of Tel Aviv, specifically for Americans whose flights were canceled due to the Iran war. Israel says it carried out more than 7,600 strikes in Iran, 1,100 in Lebanon. Explosions heard, smoke rises near Tel Aviv, but no casualties reported from latest Iranian missile attack. Israeli military says there are still many objectives to strike, many threats to neutralize, right, like whistleblowers within their own government. They decided to drop all charges against the military personnel who were caught sodomizing, raping prisoners. UAE detains influencers, tourists, and expats over social media posts showing impacts of Iran war. A growing number of social media users, including foreigners, are facing charges in the UAE under the Gulf state's broad cybercrime laws for sharing or possessing digital content that depicts or comments on the impact of ongoing Iranian attacks. That sounds like a nice free nation, doesn't it? Iran adds major U.S. tech firms to target list in Mideast with drone and cyber attacks already underway. And we can only pray that those missiles meet their marks with no civilian casualties. But certainly, if they could blow up Amazon, Microsoft, Palantir, and Oracle, that would be a big bonus for the world. All 6 crew members and military plane crash dead, CENTCOM confirms. Such a tragedy. Please keep praying. UAE responding to more incoming missile and drone threats from Iran. According to regular updated data from the Independent National Institute for Security Studies in Israel, the UAE has been targeted by Iran more than any other Gulf state, with at least 282 missiles and more than 1,500 drones detected flying at the country. Most have been intercepted or fallen in the sea or on empty ground, but at least 6 people have been killed in the UAE and over 130 wounded since the war began, according to the INSS. Ukraine and America's G7 allies say easing Russian oil sanctions the wrong decision. Look at these monsters here. Hegseth, Friday will see highest volume of strikes in Iran war and Trump will determine tempo. Kane says Strait of Hormuz is tactically complex environment. It most certainly is. Could never put troops on the ground there because of the mountains in Iran that overlook the strait. It's a tactically complex environment, Chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane said Friday, acknowledging the difficulty in acting on plans to escort commercial shipping traffic safely through the strategic waterway. Asked if the Trump administration had adequately planned for Iran blocking the strait through which a fifth of global crude oil supplies typically flow, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said yes, but did not provide details. I don't think he's qualified to be honest with you. No clear evidence of Iran placing new sea mines in Strait of Hormuz, Hegseth said. Kane says most U.S. service members injured in the war have returned to duty. Active rescue and recovery operation after U.S. military plane crash in Iraq, Kane says. CENTCOM said earlier that recovery efforts were still underway without giving any information on the condition of 2 other crew members who were aboard the aircraft, which went down at about 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Oh, Hegseth says CENTCOM has designated an officer to investigate strike in Iranian girls' school, but don't expect to get any truth, as this is just another globalist administration based off of deception. Bad things can happen, Hegseth says, as of deadly U.S. military plane crash. Bad things can happen. Bad things can happen. So it's like Ilhan Omar saying that some people got hurt during 9/11, right? Or whatever the heck. Bad things can happen. Regarding the loss of 6 service members, all he says is he says bad things can happen. Good Lord. But war in this context and in pursuit of peace is necessary. Right. Sure it is. Just goes on and on, my friends. What is the House? What is Congress doing about this unconstitutional war? The 4 House Democrats who voted against the War Powers Resolution to rein in Trump on Iran. This is March 6th. 4 Democrats split from the rest of their party to vote down the War Powers Resolution, which would have halted President Donald Trump from continuing strikes against Iran without first gaining congressional approval. Much like it was in the Senate the day before, the measure was defeated in the Republican-led House of Representatives Thursday evening with a 212 to 219 vote. With voting largely representing party lines, all but 2 GOP lawmakers moved against the measure. And that would be, of course, Massey of Texas, a lead sponsor of the resolution, and Warren Davidson of Ohio. The Constitution is clear. Our Constitution provides Congress initiatory powers of war, said Massey during a rousing debate on the House floor. Massey has broken ranks from President Donald Trump and strayed from party lines on other key topics, such as the row over Greenland, often earning him the wrath of the commander-in-chief.
We got to get rid of this loser. This guy is bad. He's disloyal to the Republican Party. He's disloyal to the people of Kentucky. And most importantly, he is disloyal to the United States of America.
The Democrat votes that have garnered the most discussion. Since some Democratic members of the House who had previously stated an intention to vote against the War Powers Resolution, which was first introduced by Massey and Democrat Ro Khanna of California in June last year, reversed course. The impact of Trump joining forces with Israel last week to launch surprise strikes on Iran and the widening war that has since emerged prompted some to change their position. When it appeared we might preemptively vote on the War Powers Resolution while the U.S. and Iran were in the middle of negotiations, I said I would be a no vote because I believed that calling up the resolution at that time could undermine negotiations and telegraph to the Ayatollah that we weren't applying maximum pressure and that he could delay a deal. Rep. Jared Moskowitz of Florida said as he explained his change of heart. A lot has changed in a week. While Moskowitz argued that no one will miss Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who was killed in early strikes, and implored that Iran must be prohibited from ever having a nuclear weapon. Oh my good Lord, it is the same rhetoric. Anybody else tired of the same rhetoric? He pointed to mounting concern over the lack of congressional oversight. Over the last year, we have seen a ludicrous increase in the speed of Congress's abdication of authority to the executive branch. He argued we must begin to claw back that prerogative. We must reestablish our Article 1 authority, which grants Congress all legislative powers. Well, at least we still have a few good ones on our side.
regime are crumbling. With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused, and we know it. Our response? We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Yet some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business, and I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous.
Wait, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
We've had enough here.
Wait, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Wait, shut your mouth. Shut. It's coming off stupid.